What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are going to be doing a 2-round mock draft without trades. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube. Below my face is my board. It's going to anger you, but you know what? I owe you honesty over making you happy. So if you guys do have any questions on these players, either there's already a video up on them, or you could even look at my Twitter feed, which it's going to be 2 clicks away. Go to that link tree, and then you go to all those links, including the sponsor, UnderDog Fantasy, who I love dearly. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You can see it in the ticker below my face. But I digress. We're going to get into this because it's going to be a fun one. We do this every single week. This is based off of the current Super Bowl odds. I'm going to be doing that until about halfway in. And then once we kind of get about halfway in or get a much better picture, that's when we can start using a normal draft order based on actual standings. So don't get mad at me for it. I'm just going to kind of like limit my liability right there. But let's get on into this. Yes, I know that my board will irritate some people. However, I still love you guys. And this is based off of the actual numerical grade. Some of these players haven't been updated for 2024 yet. And I only grade players in all 22. So, again, keep that in mind. Pick number 1 for the Carolina Panthers. I think that with the revelation of Andy Dalton actually being good in this offense, it does bring into question whether you should go quarterback. And I've been going quarterback, but based on the fact that you guys have been denying trade offers, I do think that you guys are not giving up on him yet. Maybe we'll wait until the offseason until it happens, but let's just play a game where we don't see a quarterback go at 1 to the Panthers. We see what happens if maybe in round 2 they could take a test on 1, but we're not going to do it here at number 1. Now, we're going to later this week have a 3-round mock draft trades, as we will do every single week. And in that, we'll be able to break down maybe moving out of the number 1 overall selection. But if you are sticking here at pick number 1, you are going after the best player. Some people might call it Travis Hunter, and I respect it. Honestly, he could work really well in that Deontay Johnson role if Deontay Johnson doesn't want to stay around. But I am not going to go there just yet. However, if you want to go there, I'm not going to fully blame you. I think Will Johnson is the best player I've ever studied. He continues to prove it week after week. And it's not just that he's unbelievably smart, but he's unbelievably athletic. And not only is he unbelievably athletic, he is the perfect frame for a corner, 6'2", over 200 pounds. I don't really have an issue with Will Johnson in any way, shape, or form in any category. I just think that he is really the best player. Genuinely, he's the best player I've ever studied. And, granted, I've only been grading players for a little bit of time now, not necessarily over a long period of time. But even with that all being said, the next highest player was Sauce Gardner. And I felt a little crazy having him at number 1 on my board back then, but I feel pretty damn happy now, and I'm pretty damn happy with Will Johnson here. And I know I'm not at all in the minority with having Will Johnson at number 1, but if you guys could see the grades, which you can't, because I have the grades sitting right over to the side, it is a 10-point difference. 10. The difference between Ben Morrison and Deion Burks is actually, you guys don't even get to see Deion Burks. To Sebastian Castro, that is less than 6. So talking 1 to 2 is 10 points. That's how much of a gap Will Johnson has over the rest of the class. At number 2 for the New York Giants, I think quarterback is the obvious solution here. Malik Neighbors is fantastic, grabbing 2 touchdowns this past week. He's been an unbelievably reliable weapon for you guys. And Joe Shane was actually at the USC game watching somebody you don't like to talk about, but Miller Moss. I know it irritates everybody on planet Earth, but it's actually a good time. I'll end up actually highlighting this more in depth when we end up taking Miller Moss, because yes, he is still going in the first round, and yes, you can kiss my ass. But I have it over on Twitter, on X. I ended up posting, 10 individual plays that summarizes both the great plays he made and also the struggles he had versus Michigan. I already watched that game in all 22. It made me more confident, in my opinion, of Miller Moss. And the only thing I dropped is a little bit of arm strength, because I think that it's still there, but I might have given it a little bit more credit than it should have gotten. So keeping that in mind, at number 2, the quarterback I do think actually goes to the Giants, because they're going to go after one, is not Miller, even though, again, very tempted. I think it is Cam Ward. So we're going to go Cam Ward to the Giants here. I think he's the most likely number 1 selection, has a ton of experience, has gotten better year after year, and he's doing a fantastic job for Miami right now. USF was a big, big test because their defense is not like a lot of college defenses. And in the fact that they do very unique blitz schemes, and they gave Alabama a lot of trouble, but Miami got to feast. So good for them. And number 3 for the Tennessee Titans. It kind of sucks to see them here, but honestly, the biggest thing they need to go after, offensive line. You know what? I love taking Travis Hunter because it fits perfectly as a Tyler Boyd role in a Callahan offense. Can totally see that happening. But, dude, watching Nicholas Petit-Ferrer literally whiff and eat air and then eat shit, I knew instantly this guy he needs to be proverbially put down as a starter. And Will Campbell's the guy. He has pretty much cleared even Marcus Bowe, who I love to death, obviously friend of the show. He is not right now updated in terms of all 22 grade because of the fact that Purdue is not necessarily one of those schools that garners a lot of all 22 attention. Will Campbell is updated, and this is based on South Carolina all 22. Oh yeah, I watch players' worst games, and then that's how I fall in love with players, because if I like them when they suck, it usually means I'm going to like them when they're good. So Will Campbell's going to be my selection here. Yes, he's a left tackle. I don't think arm length is going to be the big issue for him. I honestly think it's going to be a little bit more coaching, but he had an issue versus South Carolina versus wide 9. It was a little bit difficult for him to make sure that he had the proper position where he was supposed to not give up enough room inside, which allowed a lot of inside counters when he didn't do that. And to me, I feel like that's really coachable. Really coachable. That self-awareness honestly pops up everywhere else. He was absolutely dominant for the majority of those reps. The PFF grade did not represent how damn good of a game Will Campbell played. But keep him at left tackle and move JC to right if you want. Regardless of what you want to do, I want to secure the offensive line. Worst case scenario, Will Campbell's just going to be a freaking great guard. But you don't even need to worry about that. I think he's going to be a baller tackle. So Will Campbell gets the selection at number 3 overall. So, 2 of my top 3 players go in the top 3. I do love that for sure. Number 4 for the Denver Broncos. Travis Hunter is a viable option here, keeping him in Denver. Technically, Boulder is right outside of Denver, but I digress. Keeping him there in Colorado would be pretty fun. The problem is I think he's going to be a wide receiver. I actually have him listed as a corner here, but unfortunately, we are going to have to... I'm literally doing this on the fly while we're talking to you. We're going to be putting him as a wide receiver. And technically, his grade is not that high as a wide receiver. I'm just going to give that information to you now. But he... You know what? We're changing this live as well. We're changing it to wee weapon. There you go. That's what he's going to do. that's going to be how we categorize him, as a weapon. But I do think he's going to be a receiver in the NFL because money talks. Money talks. That's what it is. And wide receiver 23 is the same as corner 4. It's a business decision, and I respect it. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not a huge fan of over there at Colorado, but the one thing I will never blame a player for doing is doing what's best for themselves in terms of the position in the NFL. And again, I don't really think that receiver is the thing that the Broncos need to go after here at pick number 4, especially one that is not built like T-Mac. I'd want someone to be a Cortland Sutton for the long run for Bo Nix, and I think that Troy Franklin in the long run could play a little bit closer to what you'd want Travis Hunter to play. Not saying that they're the same type of player, but I'm saying that the role that they'd play, a little bit too much overlap to take Hunter at 4. That being said, looking at other options for this team, offensive line super critical as well. Will Campbell would have been a dream. Calvin Banks is doing a solid job this year. I will say I'm not overly impressed with this game. So I do think you could wait to the second round and test out someone like Arianti Urzuri potentially. And we'll see who actually gets there. But I can almost guarantee you there will be a good tackle at number, whatever pick that is, 36. But continuing on, corner's going to be the way I rock, just because I think it's best player available. This class has a lot of very good corners, but not many built like Ben Morrison, who's been consistently able to face top-tier NFL receivers like Marvin Harrison Jr. and be able to compete at an elite level. At pick number 5 for the New England Patriots, offensive line has been also the focus for them. However, again, I just highlighted the issues with taking a tackle here at number 4. Caden Wallace, unfortunately, did struggle early on, and I'm kind of praying that you put Owenu at right tackle and put him as a guard, even though Layden Robinson's been playing. But, I'm telling you right now, you want Caden Wallace, who was my guy at guard, to be his best. You put him at guard. I really am going to hone in on this right now. If you cannot get Will Campbell at number 3, I just don't know if you shouldn't go to free agency to try to steal a tackle. Get a veteran on a 1-year deal, try to snipe someone down the board. I mean, you could just say Kelvin Banks is the good pick here. It's a very realistic pick, but like deep down, I mean, it's probably, I'll end up doing it because it's very realistic. People like Kelvin Banks a lot, and to be fair, he'll probably be the next selection anyways. So we'll do it just out of realism, but I will just at least put out a caution there that maybe it would be best to go to free agency for a tackle. A lot of people love Kelvin Banks, so I know there's not going to be much pushback on it, but I do just want to put that out there. At pick number 6 for the Washington Commanders, a team that I really would have loved to at least go Kelvin Banks because I know it's going to be an upgrade, and technically I could say the same about the Patriots there, but offensive line, certainly you still could go offensive line. I just don't think it's that special of a class. Again, I even highlighted my issues with the one I just took. But looking at the options that do present themselves, I think edge rusher is a very smart decision to go after. I think corner is a very good decision. But I also do think wide receiver is not out of the realm of possibility. If you want to go Travis Hunter, I mean, you got rid of Jahan Dotson. Granted, not a big loss, but still a loss. But I do think edge rusher would be pretty damn smart. And I'm looking right now, and I'm seeing Harold Perkins right there. And it just breaks my heart because I know that he's actually not my 20th player overall because he did just end up tearing his ACL. So keep that in mind as well. I'm going to keep him there out of respect and out of love until my trades video. But God, that's a kick in the balls just to look at him. But I do think there's a clear-cut edge one in this class. It just doesn't fit. So looking at the edge that fits the best, it's Nick Scourton. And I think you have to go after a player like this. This is going to be your DeMarcus Lawrence. And he is extremely talented. I think he regressed a little bit from where he was at Purdue. However, I think that he is just overall, even with adding the extra weight, taking a step back, still unbelievably productive, super high IQ. Just a really damn good player. At pick number 7 for the Las Vegas Raiders, Travis Hunter might be my selection here. First off, Colorado to Nevada, pretty damn close. So talking about like good proximity there. But even with all that being said, I think Devontae Adams is probably not going to be there for the long haul. Talking about AP highlighting that some players were making business decisions and not really going 100% as the game went on. Feel free to mark or to call out which individuals you think those are. But with all the people talking about like free Devontae Adams, I certainly could see a receiver position being open on this team. And Travis Hunter, there is that connection. I'm pretty sure Dion is friends with Antonio Pierce. Could totally see that being the case if they don't want to go quarterback. And let's analyze the quarterbacks here. So we got Shedeur. Now, Shedeur brings a high-level processor, and when things are going perfectly, it's hard to find a quarterback that produces more. However, when we see the Nebraska game and break that game down, I told you guys I prefer to look at quarterbacks' worst games, and they'll either give me more confidence in them or more reasons to question whether they can translate. Shedeur did not bounce back. That was the problem. I saw him get more panicked, which I love his processor, when he started losing and having the pressure all the time. And again, there's a lot of blame to put on the offensive line, but there's also some blame to put on the quarterback at the same time. It's not like Miller Moss had to deal with a great offensive line. I mean, both of the edge rushers for Michigan got 6 and 8 pressures respectively. And that doesn't count for Mason Graham literally clubbing Jonah Monheim to the side. So like we're keeping it apples to apples here. And we saw one quarterback bounce back and put Michigan on its heels. Granted, Michigan's offense was absolute butt cheeks, but you know, they're pretty run heavy. But for Colorado versus Nebraska, Nebraska still is a very nuanced offense. It's not like Raiola ended up throwing for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns where it was impossible to come back. So I didn't see the bounce back there. And then you add the issues that some people do believe, maybe myself, but I'm going to take even my thoughts out of it. There are issues that talent can't get over. Some people don't see it as a galvanizing leader. So there are certain factors that some teams just aren't going to love. Now, a team like the Raiders, where you do have a connection to Deion Sanders, that could certainly be something to overcome those issues. But if you see the other team saying, man, I just don't know if I want to pull the trigger, not an overly elite athlete to where NFL edge rushers are not going to be able to take care of him, and then not an elite arm to where, you know, he could end up forcing passes in crazy situations, some teams might just say, I feel more comfortable waiting. And I think that's going to be the case for me as well. Carson Beck had his struggles versus Kentucky. And then you look at Connor Wigman, he looked absolute cheeks at the start of the year versus a team that got beat by NIU. Then Quinn Ewers has his inconsistencies as well, but he's honestly a very fun quarterback, definitely somebody to look at late first. But you have a lot of quarterbacks, minus Miller Moss, that should be not even really considered as first-round players. The question I want you to ask yourself, is Quinn Ewers a guaranteed better quarterback than what we have right now for the Raiders? I don't know if he's a guaranteed better than Aiden O'Connell. I mean, he should be, but I don't think it's a guarantee. And yes, guarantee is a pretty strict word. But, I mean, we're talking about with Gardner Minshew. He's like the 30th best quarterback in the NFL. Let's talk about Derek Carr. Derek Carr is right now at that threshold, and he's in a very, very, very efficient offense, but he even struggled this past week as well. So, is Quinn Ewers better than Derek Carr? I can't say that confidently. So, if that's where my head's at, like that's where I start like thinking, okay, it might be time for a change. I don't think I could take him in the top 10. That's my logic there. I'm very confident about Miller Moss. However, I want to try out what happens if you don't take Miller Moss in the top 10. And I'm going to go Travis Hunter as a wide receiver because I think Davante Adams might be walking at the end of the season or even halfway through if things start really becoming tense between certain players and the organization. At pick number 8 for the Cleveland Browns, it's a team that will also be losing some firepower. Amari Cooper, honestly, this would be a great team for Travis Hunter. Amari Cooper, going to be gone. Elijah Moore, gonna be gone. Luther Burden might be the exact guy you are looking for. However, I am just in love with the idea of Tetairoa McMillan. As a Steelers fan, I'm not in love with it because I don't want to give Deshaun an option for him to be at least trying to overthrow players and then just not be able to overthrow this one. But I do think that the potential talent of adding Tetairoa with Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, could be a really well-rounded receiving core that could at least replace some of the value that you guys have lost. And with Deshaun being so inadequate, I think that it's better to get a receiver that can deal with some inadequacies and at least turn some negatives into positives, more than someone like Amari Cooper who, he gets separation. Tetairoa is kind of always open because of the fact that, he is just so damn reliable when you just say YOLO. Pick number 9 for the Indianapolis Colts. Honestly, Mason Graham wouldn't be a bad option here. DeForest Buckner, pretty sure he's on IR, so you could certainly use Mason Graham, having that youth next to DeForest Buckner when he comes back, and having a nice young duo there for the future. Leatu Latu finally broke out. Hallelujah. He was having a little bit of a disappointing start to the year. Spoiler alert for my video tomorrow. I'm going to be waiting for Monday Night Football, especially since there's a couple games for me to be able to drop that video. Otherwise, I'd do it today. But what the Colts displayed is a lot of talent, but not enough consistency from the quarterback position. I trust Anthony to continue to get better at that. But on the offensive side, I think they kind of check everything out. Jalen Jones, you guys have been following me for a while. He was my corner 3 entering the draft. He was my corner 1 at the start of that year. Obviously, that narrative changed. And then I ended up saying, actually, that Christian Gonzalez was my number 1 corner solely if he went to Bill Belichick. Luckily, that ended up being the case. And, he certainly has his right to be in that conversation. That's arguably one of the best cornerback drafts. I don't think we talk about that enough, but we're talking about Joey Porter Jr., Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, and then, to a lesser degree, Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones did a fantastic job. However, I don't think that means the job is done. I want to look at some corners here. Siobhan Revell also tore his ACL. Another kick in the nuts. But I'm praying that they update this. Like, I really continue trying to harp at PFF to update it, to have guys like Davison Igbenison that, people who I trust, who I'm going to be bringing on the show this week, are going to be like, we're going to talk about it. We're like, Davison Igbenison's a guy who is considered like the highest potential corner in the class outside of Will Johnson. So definitely worth at least mentioning. But I love Denzel Burke to the squad. He brings physicality. To me, my new comp for him is Darius Slay. There was actually one particular rep from this past week that I saw with Shaheed running a double move. It looked almost identical to how Denzel Burke guarded a double move versus Roman Wilson when they played each other last year. So that's my new comp, and I'm going to take it. He's still really physical, really good build. You look at him right here, 6'1", 193, having, a really solid year overall. And again, they haven't played anybody, to be fair, but somebody who I just really trust every single down. And there's a lot of good corners in this class, but I don't think many are as good as Denzel Burke. And number 10 for the Arizona Cardinals, Mason Graham's here. Hard to say no, because the fact is he's somebody who can get instant pressure. We might end up saying that edge rusher is the better position to target, but I do want to try to not just go edge rusher every single time in the first. And there's some good guys there in round 2 that I feel comfortable with. Same thing with defensive interior, but a little bit less to that degree. The thing with defensive interior is that when we go to round 2, there's going to be 2 guys who are most likely there, Kenneth Grant and Dayon Walker. The problem with both of these players is that they both need a lot of work. I don't think they're going to be day 1 guys based on how they're playing right now. Dayon has too high of a pad level, and Kenneth Grant's just been extremely unproductive. I love him to death, but the guy just does not have a pedigree of a legitimate first-round player at the moment. Right now, the 2 guys who deserve respect in terms of being a first round or a fringe first as a second round player is Mason Graham and Tyleik Williams. So with those 2 players mentioned, I think it's more comfortable for me to go after Mason Graham here, who's coming off a very good week versus a very poor USC offensive front. At pick number 11 for the Miami Dolphins, it's crazy to see y'all here. But Malachi Starks is here. I know receiver is a position I love to target for you guys, but how often do I get to select Malachi Starks? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of crazy that you guys are here. And Malachi Starks is one of my darlings. He's going to be somebody who I think would work really, really well next to Javon Holland for the future. Get yourself just a bona fide playmaker. And I know it sucks to say pass on Luther Burden. It's going to be great if you guys can end up getting him as well. But there's other players in this class in the receiving core that I trust a lot. Not many guys who I trust in the defensive back core, even though I like this class as much as Malachi Starks. Pick number 12 for the Chicago Bears. Luther Burden's here. Hard to say no to that. Offensive line is easy to target at this point, but we do have 2 more picks where I feel very comfortable. You could go. I mean, if I had Will Campbell somehow sliding to this point, I'm taking his ass. That's the God honest truth. But I just don't see a player right now, even though I love Tyler Booker and I love Donovan Jackson. There's some good players that could play guard that I trust at 33. So let's look at other positions that we should focus on. We finally had a breakout game from Caleb, even though it had its ups and downs. It still had its ups. And then Rome Odunze had its ups. I think that Keenan's going to be gone after this year. You need to replace him with somebody extremely talented. And I trust Luther Burden in the slot. I really do. And he complements DJ Moore and he complements Rome Odunze so damn well. Let's get sexy with it. Luther Burden III, also really good as a returner, great with the ball in his hands. He's an interesting player because I don't think holistically as a wide receiver, he might compete in all categories with some other players. But overall, the whole mechanism of Luther Burden's game is just that he gets open, he's reliable, great ball tracking, and really damn good after the catch. And that is worth it to me at 12 for a team that fits him perfectly. Pick number 13 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It kind of sucks to see you guys here, but this is where I might start thinking about an offensive tackle. I know I just kind of said that no for the Bears, but the Bears, I think that you couldn't pass on Luther Burden. This is another team, though, that I could totally see going after another receiver. The offense does need some help, but I also think that corner room could use some help. And you guys like guys who are physical. You like guys who are big. You like guys who have good ball skills. Decario Davis is right up your alley. Now, I think that Ephesians Prize Sock might be in there. Davis and Benison might be more of your taste, so to speak. So because of that, I'll avoid going after corner at the moment. But I still want to put that information out there for you guys to at least take it home. I think Tyler Booker wouldn't be a bad choice at this moment. But I ended up saying that maybe we could wait with the Broncos for Ariante Urzuri. I want to give him some love for this week. And you know why? Because he had an 89 pass blocking grade. That's awesome for somebody who I have primarily looked at as a potential guard in the short run who, based on his last year's tape, who should have been a guard in the short run, who's developing as a pass blocker, who's an unbelievably good run blocker. And the fact is, when you score an 89 grade as a pass blocker, now again, I haven't watched it in all 22 yet, but the simple fact is he did a damn good job. And it was a pretty translatable game. So I'm going to give him credit. You might as well give your kudos to players, and I love doing that. So Ariante Urzuri is going to get that selection there. He's also a left tackle, so you can keep Anton at right. Otherwise, Emory Jones is certainly on the menu, so to speak. Pick number 14 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to go Ashton Genty low-key. No, Bucky Irving's doing a great job. I really want to go Ashton sooner than later, though. But this is also a team that I think, certainly, especially after getting a little bit of an embarrassing loss to Denver, needs to go after that edge rusher. And James Pierce just came off a 6 pressure week, 92 coverage grade as well. Just did a really damn solid job. And, he brings a similar frame to what you guys are kind of used to with Joe Tryon and Shoyinka. And I think he's actually a better run defender than people give him credit for. So I'm going to be taking him before guys like Mikael Williams. At pick 15 for the Rams, honestly, they're just in a situation where injuries are just piling up. I feel bad for them if I'm going to be blunt. But they're a team that I also love to carry Davis for. I've been pounding the table for it. It feels like the perfect fit. They don't necessarily always go after the most athletic defensive backs. You look at Darion Kendrick, he ran a 4.7. So I don't really think someone like Tacario Davis, who has a lower top speed, probably won't be testing crazily on the 40. I think that this is still a spot where he could really succeed, and great ball skills. I know my Rams fans love it. And it's a position where you don't want guys like Trey White having to try to resurrect their former career in order to at least make your secondary feasible. I'm going to be going after Tacario here to get you some youth, but also a really good system fit. For the Chargers, I know that going after tight ends is the easy choice here. You got Colson Loveland. He's the best tight end in the class. It makes a ton of sense. I want to change things up a little bit. We're going to go Ashton Genty. Now, you guys have had unbelievably phenomenal success with really quality running backs that are very cheap. And if you can continue to prove that that could be a working model for you, God bless. However, I don't know, when you see someone like Ashton Genty, who is pretty much the personification of Le'Veon Bell, like just great explosiveness, not the best top end speed, but honestly extremely reliable, unbelievable vision, and just great contact balance. It's kind of hard to say no, especially for someone who loves to run the ball like Harbaugh. So I'm gonna test this theory out. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think. At number 17 for the Seattle Seahawks. You guys are in an interesting situation. You guys have proven now Zach Charbonnet finally had his breakout game. Hallelujah. Good for him. Go Zach. That's a good spot to be in. I think that you could still be looking for another boundary corner. Just going to say it right now. I do think that corner 2, not corner 2, but you guys are talking about like boundary corner 2. Devin Witherspoon's a beast. Reek Woolen to me is a beast. But Nehemiah Pritchett had a couple of reps this game. Didn't really do well in it. I think he had like a 43 grade. I just think that there is room, if you guys do want to lurk on a corner, for you guys to at least be open to that option. I do think quarterback still could be right up your alley. You have Beck, you have Miller Moss, you have Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, but you also can wait till the next round for that. I think that would be a smart move to wait, even though I do love the idea of it. Low-key, I think Colson Loveland should be on the menu. Freaking Fant, I don't think that he's remotely close to Colson Loveland in talent. And I think it's going to be a disservice to let him slip out of the top 20. Because I don't see, well, maybe I could see the Saints pulling that trigger. But let me know what you think of this. He's honestly a really good blocking tight end. And I think I really do love him even as a potential receiving option. When you want to go 4 wide, it gets an opportunity to have a mismatch. If you guys want to see what he's been doing so far this year, and an offense has been absolutely buns, he has been primarily the one shining light for them. We're going to go Colson Loveland. Again, give me feedback. We have another mock draft coming later this week. At pick number 18 for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, you guys ended up going down to the wire. Unfortunately, that fake sneak that ended up being or was it just a stretch run to Bijan that ended up getting blown up for a negative? It sucks. Bottom line, it sucks. I think wide receiver, going to be a key position for you guys to target, right? Moore, not going to be there. And getting yourself your own version of Rashid Shaheed with Isaiah Bond, because I've been disrespecting this guy, and obviously you guys know I don't mean to. He was where's he at right now? He's number 24 on my board. This dude's an absolute stud, and that's not even factoring in Harold Perkins dropping, Sebastian Castro, based on his struggles this year, dropping, and then maybe some more adjustments up here, like Marcus Bowe. There's certainly room for him to be top 20 on my board. I think that would be a really, really high-end selection. So you guys know I love Isaiah Bond, and it's an interesting new pick for the Falcons. I've been going Even for guys like Luther Burden that they slipped, I've been going that route. But I haven't really gotten the deep threat yet. Isaiah Bond could be something special for Kirk to give him a little bit more breathing room to be able to pick them apart in the short and then maybe punish a defense for getting a little bit too aggressive when Isaiah Bond ends up going deep. So at pick number 19, we got the New Orleans Saints here. A lot of really, really good players. A lot of very good players. And it's hard to, you guys ended up hitting your first hurdle this week. You guys have been playing well versus some very good teams, but you finally had a loss, right? It's going to be interesting to see how you bounce back. But I think you guys will. The thing is, Trevor Penning's ass still. We had some flashes of excitement, but, this dude is a dirty player. He's trying to start fights. But the thing is, we only have ourselves to blame. Granted, I'm not going to blame myself because I didn't like him from the beginning. I don't like players who cause fights. Play the game clean. You could be aggressive and gritty, but don't be dirty. And he was always trying to start fights. He's always doing shit. He was a player that I did not like. And I don't feel happy when I say that because I would have much rather have been wrong about Trevor Penning and then not had to talk about taking Emory Jones here as much as I love Emory. It's just, there's a certain point where, you got to play the game and you got to play it cleanly. And we have to be realistic with ourselves. Right tackle is a position that easily, and let's not even get started. The interior offensive line didn't do you any favors. I think Cesar Ruiz had a 4 pass blocking grade. Jones could end up replacing on the inside as well if need be. So I'm going to be going Emory Jones here. Bolster that right tackle spot. Granted, Tolley could move to right tackle, but there's no left tackles. This is the best tackle on the board outside of Marcus Bowe, but I think Emory Jones, based on the talent, consistency, and again, recency, I think that he's going to be the more likely selection for the Saints. At 20 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, honestly, I love Justin. I think he should be brought back. I do think that we should still be looking for a quarterback. I think both can be true. It's not that Justin's done for. I think if we end up bringing on a quarterback in the first round, second round, there's still the opportunity to be able to move on from the drafted quarterback if Justin really is the guy. So I do want to keep that in there because Justin's up for a contract after this year. He's done. He has a 1-year contract with us. So we're not essentially going to be able to guarantee that he even comes back, right? A team like the Panthers, if they really wanted to, could bring Justin in and say, hey, we want you to be our quarterback, right? So again, keep that in mind. But I'm going to deviate from quarterback in the first round this time because I think that's fair. I think it's nice to be able to have some change. And corner 2 is a good position to target because Dante Jackson has already shown some cracks in the armor, so to speak. He's already had some injury concerns, but also this past week, he was the lowest graded defender on our team. And looking at the corners available, I love Dave Sigbenison. He just won't go in this range. I wish Denzel Burke were available. I'd take him in a heartbeat. But, Jason Marshall Jr., I love him. But I don't know if we actually do have the ability to go after a corner at this point. Other positions you could try to target, technically defensive interior to groom them under Cam for a little bit. It sucks. Look at this. 28 and 29. Both of them tore their ACLs. How much that hurts. I would have loved to test out Ravel in this squad. Would have loved it. But I do think we could even go offensive line. Now, stay with me on this. I do love the fact that this week we ended up seeing the first reps from Mason McCormick did well. And, I think it's no secret. Our offensive line's not doing unbelievably well. It is worth it. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go Steelers. This is a Steelers pick, and you cannot disagree with this. It might not be the best pick, but it's a Steelers pick. Quinshon Judkins is here. And we could go after another running back in here. Did they update this and just not actually put in better players? Who put RJ Harvey at 54? But we haven't gotten more corners. My brothers in Christ. At least we got some good players, so at least they're doing something. Hallelujah. But we're going to go Quinshon Judkins here. Obviously, we're at the end of Najee's tenure. Could be brought back on a shorter-term contract. Could be cheap. But Quinshon Judkins is, actually, I lied about when I ended up talking about Boise State running back. Why am I tripping up on his name? He's literally right here. Ashton Genty. I ended up saying that he was Le'Veon Bell. I lied. I actually have him comped as Devin Singletary. I slipped up. Quinshon Judkins is graded as Le'Veon Bell. And no, this is not sexy. No, this is not the biggest need. But here, let me explain it. So I do think offensive line should be considered here. The positions I think you should consider in the first: quarterback, running back, corner, and technically offensive line. So the reason why I don't think you should look at a wide receiver, and I've said this in every single one of my videos for the Steelers, stick to your strengths. The one thing that we've done throughout our entire history, you look at all of our top receivers for the most part, especially in the 2000s, how many of them are first-round picks? I can guarantee you not many, if any. So with that in mind, trust us to continue to develop really good talent. This is a good receiving class. People will try to say it's not, but it is. It's a good receiving class. The one thing I will say, we have an Arthur Smith offense, and that requires a good running. I don't really trust our running backs right now. Najee finally took what I said personally and then had a good second half. But we need an entire game of talent. And Quinshon Judkins brings that. And it's a new pick. I like testing out new theories, especially on the no trades mocks. At 21 for the Minnesota Vikings, Quinshon would have been actually a really intriguing choice here. But not going to do that this time. Looking at the options that I do think are prime for the Vikings, still think corner. I really do. Now is like where I can feel comfortable taking somebody like Ephesians Prysock if I wanted to. Like, it is starting to push it, though. I don't know how many more first-round corners I really have in this group. Like, Davison Benison, I just don't think people will look at him as a first-round pick. He's a perfect Minnesota Viking, though. Keep that in mind. Like, he is physical as all get out. But I think the best position to go for is quarterback. Come on. You kind of fell for that for a second. But wide receiver 3, certainly on the table. I really do want to hit that cornerback spot so badly. This is probably my least favorite pick, actually. Running back, I don't see a third running back worth a first-round pick. There's 2, and it is Quinshon and it is Ashton. As much as I love Trevor Etienne, I do think that he would be a great addition, just not to many teams, and especially with the workload that he'd have. Not as a number 1. So for the Vikings, doing so well on offense is operating at a high efficiency. Running back would be the area I would improve. We focus on the defensive interior. To be fair, you do have Tyleik Williams here. And especially where you do have teams like the Cowboys, Osa Odigizua, he's up for a contract. You look at teams that you might be competing against. I mean, even the Packers, you can go defensive interior, but for the Texans, they're definitely on the list. The Jets could be on the list. The Bills could even be on the list. The Lions, absolutely. So, I mean, the Niners and the Chiefs. So, you know what? Give them the biggest middle finger possible. Let me know what you think about this. Granted, I've taken Mason Graham to you guys a billion times. This is a guy who's actually graded very similarly to Mason for me and Tyleik Williams. Let me know what you think of that. At pick number 22 for the Dallas Cowboys. Woo! This is a spicy one. Running back's gone. Defensive interior, no longer available. Because, again, Kenneth Grant is not producing. He's not. You can't try to claim that he is. He's just not producing at that level. So, areas where you can improve. You might want to call out corner. I actually really do like apart from the fact that he just didn't tackle the guy, I like what Kalen Carson's doing. And then you also have Bland that's going to be coming back. So there's some hope there, and I think that you have good depth there. Linebacker-wise, there is always room for improvement, but it's something that we could do in the second round as well. Safety-wise, not going to lie, could get a little bit better right there. Saw some blown coverages. Just saw, I guess maybe not blown coverages, but poor execution. Offensively, though, I do think interior still could be the position to target. Zach Martin doesn't have many years left, if really any. And I think you look at someone like Tyler Booker, Jaden Roberts. You invest a lot of capital in your line, certainly worth it. But I think we all know the boogeyman. We got Kyron Lacy. Okay, God bless. I've been shitting on them for not adding players. They're starting to do it. Hallelujah, babe. Oh, we got Bo. Oh, shit. Okay, never mind. This is like Christmas for me, guys. I can't wait till they do this with the corners. Oh, my God. He's real. I actually think we'll go after Emeka Ibuka here. We're going to have faith that he's healthy. We need to get a wide receiver, too, for the future. I was going on this whole ass tangent. We need to go after wide receiver. For the Bengals, another team that I could easily see going after a wide receiver because got 1 year left. And then, you got Jermaine Burton in the slot, but it's pretty much Jamar and Jermaine. And you can talk about Andre Yosevas, sure. But I do think Alec Iomaner could be a bigger improvement. Just saying, but also interior offensive line. I do think that you could definitely get an upgrade from Kappa. And then I honestly think that Tyler Booker will be an upgrade over any of them. So we're going to go Tyler Booker. Continue to invest in the offensive line. Continue to invest in Joe and see how that all works out. Packers at 24. You want some youth in your edge core. You're talking about it. Injuries have piled up. Lucas is still developing. And, Smith is 32. So Mikael Williams is here. Take the shot on the kid. He's a freak, but he just needs more and more time to develop. Obviously, he couldn't possibly even wait to come out because I don't know how severe the injury will be, but he ended up having to sit out because of it. We still have Jalen Walker. He's going to be someone who gets taken, but just not many systems that are very Fangio-esque that would really work him properly in at the moment. But I digress. At 25 for the Houston Texans, it's one of the teams where I felt comfortable taking someone like Kenneth Grant or Dalen Walker. I'm going to try to steer away from that. Instead, I'm actually going to go after defense here at the safety position. Keon Saab's an absolute monster, and I'm going to throw a curveball here. I normally go Nick Emonwari at this point because he is unreal. But Keon Saab is someone who could easily be my safety too. And he's super rangy, very athletic, great ball skills. He's been someone who's been really dynamic there for Alabama, and he was dynamic for Michigan as well. I think that he's going to be a dark horse first-round defensive back pick, and I'm just going to give him the credit he deserves. At pick 26 for the New York Jets, you could go the quarterback route at this point. There's a lot of really good ones, right? You got Carson, Shedeur, and before you guys try to say, oh, why are you doing this? Like there's no reason for you to drop these players. I'm dropping my number 12 player on my board. Let's not try to act like I'm being a little bit biased here, as some people like to say I am. Let's be real. I do think the Jets could go after Miller Moss because he does like to hit the honey hole. He's pretty much pinpoint accurate over, in terms of placement, the majority of the field. The only real area where I've ever seen him, truly miss is, behind the line of scrimmage to the right of him. When he's trying to lob it over a lineman to a running back, that's the only time I've really seen, relatively consistent error. The rest of the field, this guy is pretty much damn pinpoint. But I think with all the options, this is another spot where you can wait. I don't think Aaron's going to call it quits. So another area where you could focus on is still offensive tackle. The right tackle spot is being filled by, Olu Fashanu. Awesome. But Tyron Smith's on a 1-year contract as well. Why not continue to develop the offensive line? I haven't pulled this in a hot minute, but why not continue to invest in the offensive line? And the best right tackle available technically would be Blake Miller or Jonas Savania, but I do want to throw in Marcus Bowe here. He ended up having some struggles versus Notre Dame. However, the entire damn team was extremely inoperable. So I still want to throw his name out there. I don't think I could pull that trigger, though. We'll go after wide receiver instead. Lazard's doing damn well, but we also know that Alec Iomaner is pretty much a better version of Allen Lazard. So we're going to go after Iomaner. I still want to put Marcus Bowe's name out there because you guys know I love him. Pick number 27 for the Baltimore Ravens. Team that doesn't need too much except offensive line. And offensive line-wise, you got Jaden Roberts here, who can be an absolute stud, super power weapon. I do think Donovan Jackson is better, technically. However, Jaden Roberts is higher ceiling because he also is one of the strongest players in college at the moment, if not the strongest. And I think that, especially with a lot of teams that are looking for right tackle hopefuls in the future, i.e., to be fair, Johnson did a really good job for the Eagles, but the Eagles could be looking for it. The Niners could be looking for it, especially the Chiefs. I love going the Jaden Roberts route for the Chiefs. You're going to be disarming a lot of opponents by getting Jaden Roberts. At 28 for the Buffalo Bills. Wide receiver, still a position I totally think could be on the table. And you got Kobe Hudson now, too. Awesome. Jalen Royals. Yes. Man, this is Christmas for me. This really is Christmas. You got Deion Burks, Ty Felton. Yes. Yes. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, guys. You guys don't you guys probably think oh, this is some bullshit overreaction. And from where you're sitting, that's perfectly fine. I'm genuinely happy right now because I'm seeing this. But we got to get back to it. I think wide receivers position they can target, but in round 2, you see those 2 picks. I can definitely think that there's going to be someone there. Defensive back-wise, I certainly think we should target somebody or at edge. And, looking at the guys who have proper size, I also think I can wait. That's a pretty ballsy claim because I don't know if JT or Jack are going to make it, but I could end up trying to wait. I'm trying to remember, is Princely 260 yet? He's 255. That's good enough for me. We're going to go Princely Umamulan. Another 2 teams right here that could have taken Princely because he also can line up. He's pretty damn versatile. So Princely Umamulan getting a quality edge rusher there across from Gregory Rousseau. At 29 for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is going to be Jalen Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia. He's someone who I like to take in the top 10. He is my number 7 player in the draft, but you know what? I love him to death. He ends up slipping just because at 245 pounds, who's also been primarily a blitzing linebacker, it is going to be very difficult to perfectly project him, but I really do think he's one of the best players in the class. At 30 for the Detroit Lions, defensive interior, edge rusher, offensive line. Those are the positions to hit on. Wide receiver as well. I really want to throw, where's he at? He's at the bottom here. Bo Collins into this hat. This dude's the only guy who actually works, and he actually has the only receiving touchdown right now on Notre Dame. I personally think this guy is arguably the best receiver in the country. I love him to death. Elite release package, and what I've started to realize by watching more and more all 22, the players who make big plays, like you could almost instantly know if a receiver is winning a rep just by the positioning they get off the snap. Like if you get a proper release and you have a good quarterback, you've already done the job for the quarterback. You've made it to where you got the positioning. They're the ones who can fuck it up now. So he's somebody who I really do want to pound the table for. Easily could take him here for the Lions. However, let's just continue reinvesting in the offensive line. Donovan Jackson's a stud, and I also see 2 teams here that might be very interested in someone who could be a future left tackle or just a really quality guard. At pick 31 for the San Francisco 49ers, defensive interior certainly would be on my mind. This is where you could take the risk of a Kenneth Grant or a Dayon Walker just because I just don't think they've earned it. It's more the name value than anything. Aeneas Peebles has been more consistent than Grant and Walker. So I don't really want to shortchange him out by just taking players because of their name, right? But looking at other positions they could draft, edge rusher is not out of the question. Right tackle is actually worth it at this point. This is where I could totally see it working out. And based on the guards available, or the guards that you have, I don't really see someone who is... I just need to get somebody who works at right tackle. And the player who actually has been doing a pretty damn solid job, you can see it, 2 pressures on the year, and they've played some pretty damn good schools as well. It's Blake Miller. Not really the flashiest pick, but he's just really damn solid. Not the best run blocker on planet Earth, but he's just really damn reliable. And what you need in this system is just to not have to worry. You don't have to be wowed. You just don't need to worry. And Blake Miller will give that to you. At 32 for the Chiefs, defensive interior is a great idea. However, I have a curveball for you. Let's get that guard spot filled out because Trey Smith's going to be gone. That's a massive vacancy. And yeah, you could probably try to fill it there at the back of the second. But Jonah Savania is an absolute stud. And if you have any tackle problems, Jonah could easily be your solution. Jonah Savania is the selection for the Chiefs. And yes, we will get a defensive interior. Don't you worry, Chris. I know that you got yourself all worried. Don't do it. Pick number 33 for the Bears. Offensive line still would be a great idea for this team, man. It really would. And, Parker Brailsford's an absolute stud, but we need to get something right. And let's throw a curveball. Karan Amagaji is your former 3rd-round pick. Let's hope that he could develop, right? Let's not call him a bust yet. I do think Tate Ratledge is going to go far higher than what we expect because he is super high floor. Look at 0 pressures on the year. Like, let's not even mention that. But this guy is the definition of consistency. Excuse me. That's someone who I'm going to bet on. This is, like, again, similar to what I just talked about with the Niners. You don't need someone who's going to be flashy, right? That's Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins, he was somebody at Oklahoma State that was just pancaking dudes. You need somebody who's just not causing another mayhem freaking referee, right? You just need somebody to do their job. And that's what Tate Ratledge does best. And there's a couple teams in here. I'd be very happy to take Tate Ratledge too. So if you think I'm overdrafting him, maybe you could be right, but I had a mastermind plan with the Chiefs in one of my most recent mock drafts. By the way, offensive line 4 in a row. You guys know I love O-line. But this is actually a pretty solid offensive line class. Not a tackle class, offensive line class. There is a difference. At pick number 34 for the New York Giants, we went after Cam Ward in the first, and you might say, damn, man, we could have gotten all the QBs here. And you might be right. I mean, there's no trades in this. Otherwise, I'm sitting here with the Niners. Like, the hell am I going to do? Like, would I rather have Blake Miller or trade back and probably still get Blake Miller? And that's where you trade back. That's going to be quarterback selection. There's plenty of these spots where I could totally see a team moving up, getting that 5th-year contract. I digress, though. You got the best quarterback in the class outside of Miller Moss. And I think that's super key. He fits your team to a T. I really do hope that Shane and Dable have jobs, and because I think that they'll work really well. Now, looking at where to address next, corner. I think Siobhan Ravel's returning. He's going to be the returner because he tore his ACL. It sucks, but it's true. But boundary corner play needs to continue improving. Andrew Phillips, unfortunately, got hurt early on. That sucks. I'd love to see that your second-round safety, that I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but, he's doing a great job as well. So you guys are doing a really good job overall. I think that this team just needs a quarterback infusion, maybe some running back help, even though Devin Singletary's a monster. He's just more the underrated monster. I do like the idea of going Maxwell Hairston in like the 3rd or the 4th round, but at this point, if you want to go balls to the wall, I do like the idea of going Davison Igbinison here, and this is where I might stake my claim on him, and I think I'm going to. He's done a fantastic job this year, and now that I'm seeing these other skill positions start getting loaded up with more and more guys, I'm so excited for the PFF Mock Draft Simulator to feature him as well. So we're going to let Jordan Hancock be the placeholder, but is my number 5 player in the class, Davison Igbinison. At number 35 for the Titans, we went Will Campbell in round 1, and I think that nobody's going to complain about that. Here at number 35, I think Will still will be the future of the team. So we could go after another edge rusher because Abdul Carter's here. You have some time. You have some patience. I think that's going to be a good idea for the long run, but I don't think Abdul's earned it yet. He's doing better. That's a really good sign. He's doing better, but I don't think he's there yet as a top 35 player. We have, who did I take tight end to? I'm tripping. Took it to the Seahawks. Ooh, I like that. Technically, you could go Tyler Warren here because I love Tyler Warren, but I just don't think it's worth it. Wide receiver is going to be my next pick. And hallelujah, they're actually offering selections now. That's great. And I'm going to go Bo Collins here. He's going to be, so there's a couple guys that I think we need to focus on replacing for the future. It's Tyler Boyd's role, and I also think that it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins' role. And Bo Collins is extremely consistent as a contested catch receiver. Do they have the actual, analyst here? Or, the actual, oh my God. I was trying to see if maybe he has one drop on the year. Not a huge fan of the fact of that, but, oh, there we go. That's what I was looking for. He has over 50% contested catch rate on his career. He has 75% so far this year. I really do love what he brings to the table, even in a really shitty offense like Notre Dame. He's my number 1 receiver in the class, and I think he'll be a great fit. At pick number 36 for the Broncos, I talked about going offensive line later. This is the later. Jack Nelson, tackle out of Wisconsin. He ended up falling on my board, but where did he go? I think he was 72 overall. There's Blake Miller. Hi, buddy. You're probably going to get dropped eventually a little bit too. He's somewhere in here. I can't see his name, and that is okay. I don't need to. But regardless, he is someone who slipped a little bit, but someone who still is doing a really, really good job and someone who could easily boost his grade as the season goes on. At number 37 for the Patriots, edge rusher. Looking at who we drafted up high, we went after Kelvin Banks, the more realistic pick. And Abdul Carter could work here. Shamar Stewart could work here. Ugh. If I'm going to be honest, how many edges I like? I'm just going to be real with y'all. I took a lot of the edges I really liked. My next best one is Abdul Carter, who is technically in striking range of this pick. You know what? He also has coverage ability. And you know what? Let's rock it. Let's do it. Let's try it out. Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State. At pick number 38 for the Commanders, we went after edge in the first round, Nick Scourton, who's going to be your DeMarcus Lawrence. Here at pick 38, I think that you certainly could be going after now offensive line because you need it. And Josh Simmons is going to be the selection here. He's been extremely consistent against zero pressures against teams with pretty much nothing going on except for Marshall. It's a key game because Mike Green, he had one rep where he beat Fryer, but, still a guy who is very, very relevant. He is the next best left tackle in the class, and I'm going to give him the love for it. Josh Simmons. Again, Marcus Bowe will be going probably sometime in here, but I still want to give credit to players who are statistically performing better for the time being at bigger schools. At pick number 39 for the Raiders, though, we're going to go after the QB now, and we have still all of the selection. If you want to go Shedeur, go Shedeur. I think Carson Beck has similar skills to what you see with Daniel Jones, as well as I think it's actually closer to Gardner Minshew. And Carson does bring an elevated game than Gardner Minshew does. And I think that's kind of what can keep you alive in games and keep you going. Again, I have Miller Moss above him, but I think realistically Beck will be the selection because he's a higher floor quarterback. Again, I'm trying to be realistic here. I really do want to take Miller Moss, but I'm going to hold myself back. At pick number 40 for the Cleveland Browns, it makes me feel so sad. And I like Carson Beck. Again, I'm trying to be enthusiastic about Beck for y'all because I do think he's a good quarterback. This is really good value for him. It's just deep down, it is Miller Moss show for me. And I'm very confident in that, but he still does not have enough experience to garner being taken this high. At pick 40, though, for the Cleveland Browns, running back is a pretty core thing for this team. And in the first, we ended up going T-Mac. We're going to go Ollie Gordon the second to be the home run hitter for this team. At pick 41 for the Indianapolis Colts, we went after defensive back in Denzel Burke in round number 1. This is where we could start talking about one of these defensive interior players also adding some some sizzle. But at the same time, I also think defensive back twice in a row, super smart thing to do. Nick Emonwari is a monster. He is probably going to be in the 4.3s, if not the 4.2s. He's 6'3", 227, and a pick 6 threat. Hard to just continue saying no when the secondary needs it. You need to continue saying yes. At pick 42 for the Cardinals, could have ended up getting these guys here. However, there's other positions to attack. Edge rusher, we kind of got screwed. And that kind of sucks. But you know what? We live and we learn. I do want to change things up. Kamen Rucker is certainly worth it. He's just dealing with an injury at the moment. Granted, I probably could still go after him. Tyler Barron's here, though. It doesn't exactly fit. But you know what? We're going to go Tyler Barron. I think he deserves it. So we're going to use Twan here. Antoine Powell Ryland. And this is going to be technically someone who I've ranked at 90, but where is he at? 92. But he's going to be boosting up because he's been doing a phenomenal job this year. Tyler Barron, edge rusher out of Miami. Now he's being used as a pure edge rusher. He's been going off. He's been doing a fantastic job. Excited to see him being brought into the fold. Pick number 43 for the Dolphins went after a top tier defensive back in Malachi Starks in round number 1. Here in round number 2, getting more firepower, never a bad idea. And I really like the idea of using Deion Burks in the Tyreek Hill mold. He is extremely athletic, an unbelievable route runner. Drops have only been the issue, and guess what? This year, they haven't. And he's been the focal point for him as well. I'm going to be going Deion Burks here. And yes, you need to go after offensive line, but you and I both know your team doesn't give a shit about offensive line, and they should, but they don't. Pick number 44 for the Bears. We went after wide receiver as well as interior offensive line already. Would debate going after interior offensive line again. Safety, certainly with Kevin Winston Jr. I think that's a little too much of an overlap with what you already have with Jaquan Brisker, even though I like the idea of maybe getting Dante Trader Jr. down the line, but I digress. You could go after running back technically. Sucks to say that, but Trevor Etienne mixed with Roschon Johnson could be kind of what you wanted with Swift. But looking at the better options, the things that we should be focusing on is continuing to get more and more help on the interior of the offensive line. And again, I already said, let's try to focus on upgrading that tackle spot with what we already have on the roster in Karan Amagaji. When looking at the interior of the offensive line, Parker might be 290, but he played unbelievably well at 275. And he's somebody that I don't like small linemen. This dude is a freaking baller. And he, I think, was a state championship. He was a state champion for wrestling. And that already, we kind of know, translates to the NFL because that means great core stability, great grip strength. And that means that you also have really good leg power. And also, I mean, technically upper arm, like just the pure strength of someone who's a wrestling champion is going to be so advantageous for a team that really needs some center help. And I haven't been giving the love to my player at number 38 overall as I should. At number 45 for the Jaguars, went after offensive line round number 1. Went after Davidson Benison already, which sucks because I think he's also a good fit for this team. However, still have some really good corners on the table, including Azariah Thomas, who I actually want to finally toss into these mock drafts, and he'll eventually be on here. But Azariah Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State, will be the selection. He was the 3rd highest graded defender of y'all's this past week. He is unbelievably built, 6'2", 194. Freak athlete, and he actually has a ton of reps. He had over 500 last year, even as a backup. So he's actually more experienced than pretty much anybody else who has never started before. At pick 46 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, went after edge rusher in the 1st. Running back could be on the menu here in the 2nd. Tight end as well. And I'm going to go Tyler Warren here because I think he is really, really dynamic. You need to get it continually reinvesting in that offense for Baker for the future. Tyler Warren's going to be a great upgrade over Cade Otton. Pick number 47 for the Carolina Panthers. This is where you can try to go after a quarterback. Now, you might not end up wanting to do this, and I respect that. Quinn Ewers feels like a great option. Shedeur Sanders, to be fair, is a little bit closer. I think Shedeur and Miller Moss are going to be a little bit closer skill set wise to what Andy Dalton's been doing. Shedeur has that processor to him, but I do think there's going to be a little bit too much of a rivalry if you don't get rid of Chase Young. We could end up going this mock draft without going after a quarterback. I do think that's fine. If we do find the right value though. Receiver, to be fair, not a bad choice. Not a bad choice at all, because if you do think about it, I don't think Deontay is going to be there next year. There's a chance of that. Tight end wise, you got that kind of locked up for the future, even though not really performing as well as you want it to. Again, just the edge rusher class, like, ugh. Like, brother, ugh. It's just not good. But I do think defensive interior, not a bad position. At this point, you could perfectly justify it. We'll go quarterback. I think that's a smart thing to do. Quinn Ewers is the more likely option, but we're gonna go off of. I just don't think. Again, I'm just not gonna do it. It just doesn't make very much sense, especially when he might have to sit for a little while. I just don't really see the Panthers wanting, especially since their organization is still new and moldable, for them to bring in somebody who has a more solidified routine as, the son of Deion Sanders. We're going to go Miller Moss here. He brings the same skill set that Andy Dalton does, but I think he honestly could do it even better. Just the layering and passing over the middle. That's the key to me. Miller Moss feasts on the middle of the field and the honey holes. If you guys don't know what a honey hole is, cover 2, you have your flat defender, you have your deep half. It's right there in between. That's where he ended up actually throwing the almost game-winning touchdown there as well. You guys know he's right there on your board at number 12 overall on my board. So I'm a big fan of him. Just had to squeeze him in somehow. Pick number 48 for the Los Angeles Chargers took running back in round number 1. Here in round number 2, Harold Fannon's a dark horse candidate. If you guys saw what this guy does after the catch, it's unbelievable. Versus 2 teams that are actually really talented. He got over 100 yards in both Penn State as well as Texas A&M. I think this guy actually might be taken in the second, and he's great after the catch. It's going to be like running backs and tight ends are kind of the position that Harbaugh loves the most. We're going to go Harold Fannin here, tight end out of Bowling Green. It's interesting, but passing on Kenneth Grant might be a little bit of a risky move, but Harold Fannin is just such a beast. Pick number 49 for the Seahawks. Ended up going after tight end in the 1st from Michigan. Could go back and get another guy from Michigan, but I will not. I know that you guys are going to be looking at either a quarterback or else a key safety to have, and Kevin Winston certainly could be that. But I do think that at this point you might want to start looking at somebody with a lot of talent, and I think Quinn Ewers is the more likely option here for what Geno does best, which is those high-level thread throws Not many can do it the way Quinn Ewers can. Geno doesn't have an extremely long period of time, and right now Sam Howell doesn't appear to be the option that you guys were hoping for. At pick number 50 for the Atlanta Falcons, could go Kevin Winston here, right? You're looking at having Jesse Bates back there, but after that, you ended up bringing on Justin Simmons for a 1-year deal. You could end up just saying, hey, we're going to go after Kevin Winston here, continue to enforce that secondary, and I would not blame you. It's better than the corner value apart from Ephesians Prysock at the moment. So you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get a big hitter that is just very, very dangerous. And it's also taking him away from the Saints that I would have loved to take him to. But at 51 for the New Orleans Saints, this is where I think the value really is starting to make itself clear, that you're looking at the defensive interiors. However, Willie Gay is on a 1-year contract, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to go linebacker. Harold Perkins, we're considering going back to school. Should have ended up making that clear. Jack Kaiser is kind of perfect for Willie Gay. As a Sam linebacker, or I think he's a Will. 6'2", 231 is literally perfect, and he's just so damn good. He is so good. He's having a little bit of a bummer year this year to start out because the whole entire team freaking sucks, dude. And I really trust him. I really trust him. And you guys are really good at spotting talent down the board. So we're going to go Jack Kaiser in the first. We ended up going after Emory Jones, just getting 2 boring positions, but with really good value. Here at 52 for the Steelers, this could be Shedeur Sanders if you want it to be. Ended up going, what do we do in the first round? I'm tripping. We ended up going after a running back in Quinshawn. Oh, that's fun. Can't wait to see the comments on that. You know what? Let's skip the quarterback this time. Let's try it. Skipping the quarterback, we can go to receiver here. And you got guys like Ty Felton that I think would be really, really solid. Really wish that we could see some more representation in here than some of the guys who were added, but that's okay. It's better that we can actually talk about these guys. Kyron Lacy in round 3 is kind of speaking to me. He is. I think going after a corner too, that's the way we rock. Rest in peace, Siobhan Revelle. He's not dead, but he is probably returning to school. I think Jason Marshall deserves credit here. He's been consistently the best player on Florida. You're seeing these grades. You want to know what the rest of the defense is grading? Far less. And you're looking at this 42 yards over 4 games. 3 of them translatable, by the way. And 61.2 passer rating. He's been really, really consistent. And you look at his frame, 6'1", 201. We're going to take a shot. We're going to do it. Florida corners don't usually work, but they're going to work this time. Pick 53 for the Bills. Ended up going after an edge rusher in round number 1. Here in round number 2, we missed out on one of the best safeties in the class. But Xavier Nwakpa is literally perfect for the Bills. He's used to cold weather. He's a big hitter, super smart, loves the line of scrimmage. Pick 54 for the Cowboys. We went after a wide receiver in round 1 and Emeka Ibuka. Still could go after one here in Kyron Lacy, but I will actually be opting to go somewhere else. Now, I do think interior offensive line could be a great idea with someone like Jake Slaughter, move Cooper Beebe to right guard, and then just have him be the center long run. But defensive interior, this is where you might want to go back to Kenneth Grant in Michigan and get a Michigan duo. You might say it's ridiculous that he falls this far, but again, look at the production. It's not ridiculous. At pick 55 for the Bengals, defensive interior with them could be worth it for Dayon Walker at this point, but we went after offensive line. We're going to go after receiver here. And somebody who deserves a lot of love is Jaden Higgins. 100% contested catch rate. Let's talk about that for a second. 0% drop rate. Freaking love the guy. But, he uses great physicality. I want him to kind of use some more route fakes, but I think he's a perfect replacement there for T. Higgins in the long run. He's sitting right there at 35 on my board. At pick number 56 for the Green Bay Packers, ended up going after edge rusher in round number 1 with Mikael Williams. Another Georgia player, too, at that. Here in round number 2, you could go after a running back at this point with someone like Trey Henderson. You certainly could try to do that. But I do think going after another corner like Tommy Hill, who's super high IQ, very physical, and super high motor, is going to be worth the selection. Pick 57 for the Texans. We went after a defensive back in the first in Keon Saab. Somehow, some way, Dayon Walker slips. At pick 58 for the New York Jets, this is where we're going to roll the dice on Shedeur Sanders. He's coming off a hot week, so I'm going to give him credit. We're going to boost him back into these mocks. But I feel like Aaron's the type of guy who can kind of check people's ego, and Shedeur will probably not be pissed off from learning from the best. And Aaron Rodgers is one of the most, if not the most talented quarterback of all time. Probably someone you should learn from. So I think it's a great opportunity. Pick number 59 for the Baltimore Ravens went after offensive line in round number 1. Here in round number 2, you could go after another weapon. Running back, not out of the question. Derrick Henry's not going to be there forever. But I do like the idea of continuing to boost the corner core. Quincy Riley has kind of struggled a bit this year. A little bit. I mean, struggled is pretty relative. But he is someone who's extremely physical, extremely high IQ. He's a graduate player. It's his 6th year. The problem is, I think that Louisville is it's a little bit different of a system. However, I actually do like the idea of Jabbar Muhammad on this squad. He ended up allowing that touchdown, technically statistically worse, but I really do think that it's between these two for Baltimore. And Quincy could be just the better option. He's a bigger framed guy. We'll go with that, and we'll see how that works out. At 60 for Buffalo, wide receiver probably going to be the best route at this point. And you got Kyron Lacy here, who's been perfectly fine being a number 2. And you look at it, 6'2", 213. He's just super dynamic and really reliable. I think he'd be a good addition there. Pick number 61 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Went after edge in round number 1. And here in round number 2, could go after offensive line, could go after tight end, but we're not going to go after tight end 4 at 61. That doesn't make any sense. Wide receiver is pretty much locked up. Quarterback, we're not going to be doing that. Running back, not going to be doing that. You could look at the right guard spot, but again, kind of depleted that as well. So when looking at other options here, I don't think you're going to be looking at another corner, right? You do have Keely Ringo there. You have Cooper DeJean, who's going to be there. Like, you do have a good amount of capital already in there. Safety, Ed Reed Blankenship's going to be there. You don't need to go after safety. So I think this is actually one of the few times you might be looking at linebacker. And it's round 2, so it's not like super duper early. Danny Stutzman, you pair him up, like Nakobe Dean's there. You could talk about Barrett Carter here, absolutely. But I think Danny Stutzman fits what Fangio looks for in a linebacker a lot more. And he's going to be a really good selection here. At pick number 62, we have the Detroit Lions. And this is where we're going to go after edge. And we're going to go after JT Tuimoloau. His skill set fits exactly the role it's going to be going with Marcus Davenport. It's worth it at this point when we ended up going after offensive line in the 1st with Donovan Jackson. Niners, we went after right tackle in the 1st. Here with 3 corners, going to be up for a contract. You certainly could be looking at corner here as well. And I really do like the idea of Ephesians Prysock, cornerback out of Washington. Again, someone who's not listed on here. So we're going to use that as a placeholder with Tony Grimes. It is my number 13 player in the class, Ephesians Prysock. It would have been actually kind of cool to get Azariah Thomas on the squad, because then you'd have Renardo and Azariah who played together, but I digress. And at 64 for the Chiefs, drum roll, please. But in the 1st round, we got Jonas Savania to play guard. We're going to go Walter Nolan here in round number 2, coming off a really hot week. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.